come to realize is that my vision for my life is it goes through a buffer, right? And that buffer being what I see for my life. So that is where my buffer system came in and said, wait, we're changing the purpose. We're changing the trajectory, right? And so I want to talk about navigating through that, navigating through our own desires and what we hope for our life versus what God has for our life and the plan that He has for us. And so that really takes us to a fork in the road here, right? So it's like, okay, how are we going to go about life, right? And this is based on your beliefs and what you believe, right? So if you believe that God has a purpose for our life, then you would, then we can have these two forks in the road. We can live life through God's plan and what He has for us, right? And that takes a surrender to His plan, because essentially to go down that path is to go down the path of death to self, right? Like my desires and my vision for my life is being on hold because I know that what God is going to use me for is bigger than my ideas, right? And then the other side, the other fork in the road is I'm going to live life through my own buffer system and my filter of what aligns with me and what feels good. And although these things can be based on principles of God, of what we know and understand of God, it's essentially going through our buffer system and our understanding. And so when we're talking about reaching our purpose, I feel like there are two ways that we can go about it. We can go about it with our buffer system, or we can go about it with surrender. And so when I was thinking about this, I thought, okay, so let's weigh out the pros and the cons, right? If I'm going through life with my buffer system, I understand, or what I'm realizing is that my buffer system is based on my understanding of God and His Word and what He calls me to do, but ultimately based on my understanding of it. And what I've come to realize is that human understanding, human nature in general is flawed. Humans, in our nature, we are selfish, we are greedy, we are lustful, we are gluttonous. This is our nature, right? Like if you leave us up to our own devices, this is what we're gonna get into. Whereas, okay, so that's the one path, and the other path here is going through the surrender of God, which is saying that I understand my human nature and I understand that it's flawed, that it's based in lust and greed and selfishness. And so I completely, or not completely, but with that understanding, I kind of have this death to myself where it's like, okay, God, I know what I'm capable of and I know how I would want things to go, but I trust that how you would want things to go is based on ultimate goodness. It isn't based on my selfishness. It isn't based on my greed or my lust, because I know that you are the one that created me and can see through these things, right? Whereas if it's going through my buffer system, it's going through all these filters of my greed, of my lust, of my selfishness, and then we get an end result. And so it's really about, so when we're thinking of purpose and reaching our purpose, there are two routes that we can go about reaching purpose. Are we going to go about it through surrender, or are we going to go about it through our own filter and our own buffer system, which inevitably comes with the flaws of human nature, right? And so that's something that we really have to sit with and we have to ponder, right? This isn't something that you can make a decision one day and now your life has changed. These are questions that you have to ask yourself, and although you might have a change in your heart, that's one step, right? And that leads into what I want to talk about now. Okay, before we even get into that second aspect, I really want to hone in the idea of the differences between the lives that we can choose. And so I really want to hone into the idea of what it looks like to surrender to God, right? So the fork in the road is either surrender or live life through our understanding, which is essentially our buffer. And I want to talk about what life looks like through surrender, right? To my understanding and to what I've kind of realized with my life is that surrendering to God's plan isn't necessarily saying, in my head, the idea that I had of it was okay, if I surrender to God's life, then it means I'm going to live a low life, a simple life, a life that is just just, in my head, it was boring, right? But what I've come to understand is that God not only wants to use us to bring his will on earth and fulfill his plan through our life, but through that our needs are met, right? And so I might have a need to for me, really and truly, right, like what is within me, I love adventure and I love nature and I love being outside. I'm like a hippie at heart, you know what I mean? And so if I was left up to my devices, and if I was left to figure and plan out my life, I would be in the middle of a forest, butt naked, okay, in a van, traveling from place to place to place, just soaking up all the beauty of nature, right? And it would be a warm place because I just want to be butt naked 24/7. Right? But what I had to realize is that, okay, that's my plan and that's based on who I am, right? Like, it's based on my identity of who I am. Like, in my core, in my essence, I'm just a hippie at heart, right? But I had to realize that, okay, through this surrender, it's not that I'm killing the inner me. I'm not killing my inner self and all my who I want to be. I'm just killing the desire, right? Because when you kill the desire, that desire doesn't block your vision or block and deceive the decisions that you're making or the direction that you're going. But the thing is that God, my belief, right? God puts in these desires in our essence because he wants to use it. And so when we surrender to his plan, it isn't that we're getting rid of who we are and that we're getting rid of our essence. It's that it's going to be used and nurtured and cultivated in the way that God sees best fit, right? And so I think for like a lot of people in general, maybe especially for like creative people who have like a lot of identities and are kind of like, not a lot of identities, but a lot of expression, and we're like fighting to just express who they are naturally. I think the idea of surrender is like, well, why would I do that? I have this part of me and that part of me and that part of me, and I want to make sure that my life aligns with that. And it's like God's plan for you when you choose to surrender to what's best for you, right? It isn't that all those things are being eliminated, it's that they're being used in the best way possible for yourself and for the world, right? And that goes back to the flaw of human nature. It's like, as human beings, I don't think we have the capacity to know and fully understand and fully guide our lives in the best way possible because we're flawed. We have those things about our human nature that are going to get in the way. And so surrendering isn't saying, okay, I'm going to live a low life, I'm going to live a simple life. It's like, no, I'm going to live the life that God has called me to live. And I know that that necessarily isn't going to kill my essence and kill who I am at heart, but it's going to use it in the best way possible, that the greatest good could be extracted from it, right? And so, and also like in the word of God, it literally says like your desires will be filled as well. Not your desires, but what you truly want, you're gonna get that. But it requires a submission and it requires faith. And that goes into the second thing that I want to talk about. The second fork in the road is, if we choose to surrender, right? So surrender, now there's another fork in the road. We can either surrender with faith or we can surrender with questioning, right? And I was thinking about this, right? In order to surrender, we have to have faith that surrendering equals death of our own will, death of our own desire, but in time and through trust and faith through God and walking with him, those desires and everything that we could want for our life is going to come back to us in the way that we need it, not in the way that we want it, right? But in the way that we truly need it. And what we need is what fills us, not what we want, right? And so I think there's a scripture that says that the one who has faith but questions is like the waves of the sea, going any which way that the wind blows it, right? And so I was thinking about that and I said, wait a minute, this reminded me of when I went surfing, okay? For those of you who have watched the previous video where I was in Costa Rica, I mentioned that I went to a surf camp, and this was for beginner surfers. And before we got into the water, they would tell us, okay, before you even jump into the water with your surfboard, you need to understand the waves of the ocean. You need to understand the way that this body of water moves, right? And so they would tell us the waves, the conditions of the ocean is based on the wind, right? And so they would tell us that it's not only the waves that you're seeing, but there's actually undercurrents, and those undercurrents can pop up out of nowhere and take you, right? And what happens when that undercurrent takes you is it pulls you far, far, far out into the ocean, to the point where you're at the point where there's rocks and there's corals and you can really hurt yourself. But also on top of that, you're stranded, right? And so someone's got to go out there and get you to safety, right? And so they were telling us, be aware of the undercurrent, be aware of the, when you start to feel that pull, because the wave will take you. It will take you and you'll have no fighting chance. There's no way of fighting the ocean, you know what I mean? And so that is the same way that faith works, right? The one who questions, the one that says, I'm going to surrender to God's will, but I want this and I want that and I want this for my life, is the one who's moving like the waves of the sea. And the thing about the waves of the sea is that they can take you under and pull you out of nowhere, because that is the nature of it. It's like the wind. If the wind is blowing from the east or the west, they would tell us before we get into the water, look at the trees, see which way the wind is coming. Is it onshore? Is it offshore? Right? Because you need to know for safety, right? And so faith is very similar to that, in the sense that the one who questions, the one who's not truly rooted or truly believing that God will fulfill all your needs, right, is like the wind. It's going to blow you this way and it's going to blow you that way because you're questioning, right? And so the key, or the question, is, are you going to have faith and be grounded? Are you going to be like an anchor in the sea, right? Or are you going to be double-minded? Are you going to question that faith? Because I think we overestimate, or we underestimate the effects of questioning faith. We think like, okay, well, there's still a part of me that believes, but there's also this part that's questioning, and so it's it's not that dangerous. But if you really understand it, that questioning is what leads you out of sea, right? It will lead you out to sea, that questioning. Because that questioning means you're not really rooted. There's no anchor in the sea that's going to hold you, right? When you put an anchor, when a ship puts down their anchor, why do they do that? They put that down because it's like, okay, we're planted here. We don't want the waves or the wind to take us anywhere, because we're going to lose direction. We're not going to know where we are. We're staying here tonight. And so we put down the anchor. And so the same thing is with our faith, is we need to be anchored in our faith, right? And that's so, so important, having questions and all. It's fair to have questions, and you should ask questions, but when it comes to living God's plan or living your purpose, if you're in a quest to live through purpose, you got to be rooted in faith. Because if you're not rooted in faith, and you're not rooted in what God has promised and believing in that, then you're going to be like the wind. You're going to be like a ship in the sea with no anchor. You went to sleep one night in Costa Rica, didn't put down your anchor. Guess what? In the morning time, you're in Jamaica. You know what I mean? Like, there was no anchor. There was nothing holding you down. You see? Like, it's just, I was thinking about this and it was like, hello. How many times in my life did I say, I love God. I love Jesus. Ooh-wee. Right? So passionate about God and Jesus and all these things, and was still questioning my faith. Because I was saying, okay, well, like, I believe, but I don't have to do this and I don't have to do that, and I want this and I want that, right? But a real death and a real surrender, which is needed to achieve purpose, is having faith. Undoubtable faith. There's no double-mindedness. There's no wavering. We're anchored, right? So yeah. So the fork of the road, right? It's having unwavering faith or living through your control, right? And your control is saying, this is the type of person that I am. I want this for my life and I want this. And although that control comes from a place of good intentions, at the end of the day, it's within our hands, and our hands are flawed. Like we talked about, our desires are flawed, right? So it's really like, these are the questions that we have to ask ourselves. I think the best way to go about it is, I mean, let me not say what I think, right? Like this is open for people to ponder on. I don't want to be here and be like, you have to do this and you have to do that. I just want to present the things that I've been battling with and the things that I've been questioning, and you know, the thinking processes that I had to go on, right? So that first fork in the road is like, okay, am I going to surrender, or am I going to surrender my life to God and do what he's calling me to do? Or am I going to live life through my buffer system? And also understanding, okay, wait a minute, my buffer system is very flawed, because one day I want this, one day I want that, and sometimes the things that I want aren't even good for me. So okay, let me understand that, my buffer system. Okay, well, I'm kind of sort of leading towards surrendering to God, because I have faith that, you know, he's gonna buffer out the things that need to be buffered out. He's got the bird's eye view on my life. So let me just go ahead with God. Okay, let me surrender. All right, well, what does surrender truly mean? Surrender truly means that I gotta have faith that God's buffer system is the best system, that he's gonna buffer out the things that truly need to be buffered out, and then he's gonna bring in the things that I truly need, not the things that I want, but the things that I need, right? And am I also gonna have faith that the things that he brings in and the things that he takes out are ultimately for my best interest, and are ultimately going to fill that inner essence, that inner me, right? It's not killing who I am, but filtering it, right? Okay, so how do I really live a life in that direction? I gotta have faith, because if I don't truly believe that's what God is going to do in my life, then I don't have an anchor to the sea. Then I'm like the waves of the sea being moved by the wind, right? Okay, and that was the full circle, right? It's kind of, I don't know, in my head I kind of have like, I guess I kind of see things visually, where I have like forks in the road, and then this one breaks off into here. And so I don't know. Anyways, these are things that you have to like think about and ponder and go through those mental processes and those questioning and say, okay, which way do I want to go? And see what you come up with, see what you find, see where your heart is being pulled. If there's questions, you're like, well, I don't really fully understand that. Go and, you know, go and do not research, but go and seek, you know what I mean? Go and seek those answers out. Maybe that's through your friends, right? Having these discussions with friends. So that's the best thing that you can do, is have these conversations out loud. Throw these ideas to your friends and your family and see how they respond and what discussions come of it, right? It's good to talk and it's good to vent. Prayer. Ask God about it. Like, ask God about it. I'm sure he'll answer. But anyways, yeah, I hope this video wasn't too like rambly or preachy. I really don't want to come off that way. These are just like my ideas and thoughts that I've had in my head, and I really felt like sharing today. So yeah, if you've made it this far in the video, thank you guys so much. I really do appreciate you. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, comment if you like videos like this below, so that I can kind of grasp what you guys are gravitating towards, what's hitting, what's not hitting, and follow me on my other socials on Instagram and on TikTok, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace and love and peace. Bye guys.